Greetings. Thanks for stopping by. Health and happiness to you. I'm Skol, and this is the Hellbender Blade Company Mudpup 5, and it's made in America. Here at Skol EDC, we're doing a celebration of America all week. So every day I'm going to put out a video featuring an American-made knife. So come back tomorrow and the next day and the next day, all the way to the 4th of July, this whole week, and see a new American-made knife featured every day. So subscribe, come back tomorrow and check it out, and the next day all week. So here's some challenge coins with American themes. We'll look at one of those. I decided I'll look at one coin front and back on each episode this week. And we're going to talk a little bit about the Hellbender Knife Company, and we're going to do a tabletop review of the knife and the sheath, which is also made in America. So starting off with the Hellbender Blade Company, located in Columbus, Ohio. So that means this knife was made in Columbus, Ohio. And here at Skol EDC, we do our homework. So doing our homework, first question, what is a Hellbender? So here's some pictures of Hellbenders. It's an amphibian, kind of like a salamander, a large salamander. So about, if you can imagine it, 2 feet long, approximately. Here's two Hellbenders hiding down in the rocks. And these are located in the Appalachian regions of America, in the eastern part of America, Appalachia. And you can see they've got 4 feet and a long tail. This one's kind of curled up and they seem kind of fat. So those are pretty large, giant salamanders, amphibians in the water and on land. And here's another picture, and that one's he's caught a snake in his mouth, so I guess he's going to eat that snake. So that's pretty cool. Big, large salamanders. I've never seen one myself, so I had to even look up what it was. So that's what a Hellbender is. And they've been endangered, so that's probably why I've never seen one. But they're reintroducing them to creeks and rivers, and apparently if you have a healthy ecosystem, having Hellbenders live there, that's a good sign that you have a healthy ecosystem and pollution-free. So if these can come back to Ohio, I guess that's a good thing, and maybe I'll run into one of these big things. So they're not dangerous to humans. And that's what they named their company after. Let's also look on their website. I thought this was cool. They've got a picture of the team. So this company is less than a year old, I think, still less than a year. So there's all their different people, machinists, and all sorts of different jobs to make the knives and make the company work. And here's the owner, Mike Kent, and he's also known for co-owner with his brother at River's Edge Cutlery in Columbus, Ohio. And then just recently started his new company, Hellbender Blades. So he's got 2 things going on now. But you got to admire somebody that takes the risks, makes the investment, creates American jobs, and creates more American products. So we're all rooting for Hellbender as an American company to be successful. So there you go. There's some about Hellbender. And I have one more thing to show you. So this came with the knife, and I thought what it said on the back was pretty neat, so I'm going to read it. We don't take it lightly that you chose Hellbender Blade Company. Every knife we make carries a piece of our passion and countless hours of work. They are crafted to be with you for a lifetime of adventure and memories. Thank you for supporting our company and being a part of our story. So I thought that was nice. I wanted to read it. And it also came with a sticker, and I'll show you the box. So the box is nothing particularly fancy, a cardboard box. But I also thought this was neat. Built with precision, built to use. So this isn't meant to be something that you buy and collect and put on your shelf. You're meant to use it, and I agree with that. Built to use, and I intend to use mine. And I'll also show you the inside. So the blade comes wrapped in this parchment paper and these accordion piece of paper for some padding. So there you go. That's everything that came with it, and the sheath came inside also. And the sheath is actually from JRE Industries, which is another American company. So they make these outdoor adventure leather sheaths. And JRE is another company that often uses these. So let's look at the sheath next, and then we'll look at the knife. So JRE Industries, located in Illinois. And you can see the double stitching is high quality, and they've got these reinforced metal rivet eyelets, and that always makes it more sturdy than just stitching. So I like that. That's good quality. And these two eyelets down here you could even use as lashing points around your leg for additional security if you wanted to. And this one came with the ferro rod loop to hold the fire steel. And you do buy the fire steel separate. So if you want to stick a fire steel in there, I got this one off of Amazon, only $6. And they're made for 3/8 inches diameter. The one I bought was 0.4, which was slightly bigger than 3/8. So mine was a tight fit, and I had to wiggle it in there, and it's in there really secure now. But it came with this nice earth tone that kind of went with the knife in colors. Earth tone knotted paracord. It also had a metal striker on the end, which I cut off, and because I didn't want the metal striker flopping around down here. So now this is just a decoration and spare paracord for an emergency if I needed some paracord, and I happen to have this knife. I've got some spare paracord and a fire steel ready to go, so for backup there. And it's also a dangler, and look at the nice thick sturdy leather, and here's their maker's mark, JRE Industries. And the good thing about danglers, when you wear a large knife that's rigidly fixed to your belt, so when you go to sit down, the sheath will always hit the seat, which is always a pain and awkward, especially even worse getting into a car. So when you're trying to get in sideways to the car and keep track of this and get it past the seat and over the edge to get in your seat, that's awkward. But when you have a dangler, now it bends, so when you sit down, the whole thing bends, and it makes everything easy to get in the car, easy to sit down, and that eliminates that problem of the hard, rigid sheath. So I like danglers for that reason, and danglers are fun. And let's see how the knife fits in the sheath. So, as you can see, we got plenty of room here to accommodate the knife. If we pushed it in that far, I don't think we need to push it in that far, but if we did, it would go approximately up to the middle of the palm swell. But we'll just push it in until it's nice and snug. And that's nice and snug, and now I've got it upside down, and with a shake, deliberately trying to make it come loose, and it's not coming loose, so mine is fitting nice and snug in there, so that is really good. So everything about this sheath is really good. Top-notch, high-quality JRE Industries came with the knife, and this one came with the dangler. And it came with the fire steel loop, but you got to buy the fire steel separately. 3/8 inch size normal, but the 0.4 with a tight wiggle, I was able to get it in there. So now we've talked about Hellbender, made in America, a really nice sheath. Now let's look at the knife. So top premium materials, and when I say premium, I don't mean premium fancy. I mean premium, the highest, best quality materials for use. That's what I mean, because Magnacut is performance, the top steel you can have in a fixed blade. Super high in toughness, maintains the balance of also having pretty good edge retention, but also very top of the charts corrosion resistance. So on Magnacut, I don't think you need a coating because it's already super corrosion resistant. But stonewashed is my preferred, just because it kind of hides fingerprints and stuff. So I've always liked stonewashed. I just like the look of it. But you could, if you did get a coating, I guess if you just wanted the subdued color, would be one reason to do it. But you don't really need it for additional corrosion resistance, because Magnacut is like 9.5 out of 10 on corrosion resistance. And originally Magnacut was rated 7 out of 10 for toughness, which is pretty high. But the new company that bought the formula for Magnacut, they're saying that they've improved the process of their Magnacut manufacturing. They've made things cleaner and better, and they're getting higher test scores on their toughness rating. But they haven't published what those scores are, so we know it's higher than 7, but we don't know, is it 7.5 now, or maybe it's 8 out of 10, but the toughness has gone up. But for your overall, you can find other steels like 14C20N that's higher in toughness, but if you look across the board, the balance that's also super high in toughness, Magnacut is your top best for fixed blades. And you might have heard about the new steel called Magna Max. Now that one tilts the balance towards edge retention, and for pocket knives that might be the top best balance steel. But for fixed blades, I would say you want it to be tilted towards toughness for fixed blades. So I'm going to say Magnacut is still the top best steel you can have on a fixed blade. So that's what we got here. So I'm really glad to have a Magnacut knife, really excited to get this. Love the blade shape and the overall appearance. Love the finish, love the colors. And they do have more subdued green and browns and a burlap. But this little bit brighter color is still earth tones, but this one appealed to me, so I went with this. And you can see it's got multi-layer, contoured, and then each one of these is kind of a wavy contour that you can feel. You might even be able to hear it. I'll run my fingernail across, you might hear it. You hear that? It's like going across a grater a little bit. Let's look here at the edge, see if you can even see the grooves. So just a little bit of texture for grippiness. And let's check each one of these manufacturing points for any sharp spots. Not feeling anything there. All these corners are rounded. Nothing is sharp. And all the way down. Also have a lanyard slot there to accommodate a lanyard. And you got a little bit of a finger guard, and you got a palm swell, and you have a little bit of a bird's beak on the back. So I wear large size gloves myself, and you can see in between the finger guard and the bird's beak I'm getting a full hand grip for a large size glove, and maybe a little bit of room to spare. So that feels really nice, fills up my hand. Really nice. Contoured all around. That is really nice. And the palm swell, really good. So let's also look at the details. So starting here, we got the drop point tip, and the flat of your blade comes pretty close out to the tip, so you're maintaining your thickness pretty far out. And then it's a flat grind here, and then the company logo, laser etched Hellbender Blade Company. And you can see the sharpening choil. One thing I like about this type of sharpening choil, sometimes you have the real high or rounded sharpening choils, and if you're cutting a string or a rope or something, your material can get caught in the sharpening choil. But this one's a shallow angle where nothing's going to snag. So that is something good about this design. And you got a nice stock thickness. So did I mention this is my biggest piece of Magnacut that I have in my collection? So it's listed as 0.156 inches, and we'll check it here with the caliper here in a second. But that is a nice thick stock. What would this knife be suitable for? I'd say it's got a sweep, so you could use it as a hunting knife for skinning. And this would be a good camping camp knife, and hiking, and even bushcraft. Now we're going to do some size comparisons here in a second. And let's also look at the other side. So one thing to point out is it is made in America, so they put an American flag on it. But the orientation of that flag, according to the flag etiquette, the American flag should always be flying forward. So like on soldiers' uniforms, where if you put a flag on the right side of a car or on the right side of a blade, the blue stars and stripes should be in the front, so it should actually flip the other way. And I don't want to belabor that, but I will show an example. Here's a Kershaw made in America. Kershaw Launch 1. And they've got an American flag on the right side of their blade, and you can see that they have right here oriented, I'm getting a glare, oriented with the blue stars and stripe field should be towards the front, towards the tip. And this one also has the American flag on the scales, and you can see the blue is towards the tip as well, so that's all correct according to the general rule of flag etiquette. But that's just a minor thing, and I know that they're patriotic and proud to be American, so I'm sure they'll fix that soon, and that's just a minor detail. If it was on the wall, that would be the right way, but on the right side of the vehicle, or on a right shoulder patch on your right arm, or on the right side of a blade, it should be flipped the other way. So let's move on. One thing that I'm weird about, or I have my own little thing, is about 3 fastening points. So when you look at a knife, and even from a distance, everything about this knife looks good to me. I like the finish, I like the shape, I like the size, I like the color of the handles, and the other thing that catches my eye that most might not be on the list of other people is how many fastening points on the handle does it have. So even if I liked everything about this knife, but if it only had 2 fastening points, I would pass pretty much all the time. That's just been a thing I've been doing for a long time. It's my own little thing, and I'll tell you why. So you've heard of that phrase, 2 is 1 and 1 is none. So I know Gideon's Tactical has said that a few times on his show. And what that means is to have a backup is good when you're able to have a backup. And in this case, we're talking about 3 though. So I could change that phrase to mean 3 is 2 and 2 is none, or something like that. But what it means is if one of these fasteners came loose or lost or broke or whatever, if you have 2 fasteners, you still have a working handle, no problem. And I do have a good example that I came across. Joe X, if you've ever seen his channel, is a knife destruction test, hard use. He just keeps going until he breaks the blade, breaks the handle. He doesn't stop until it's all destroyed. So you can see what a knife can do, what it takes to break the tip and all that. So Joe X is very entertaining with all the things. He'll just whack, 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 and keep going until he breaks stuff. And he was working on trying to break the handle on some knife. I forget which model it was, but it had 3 fasteners, and he broke off part of the handle. But he still had a working handle because it had 2 fasteners still attached. So that just proves that's almost like a backup to have an additional fastener. And that's my little thing. I don't have any other reason other than that. And I have so many knives already. It's just a differentiator of will I buy it or not buy it. That's one of the gates for me to buy something. So when I saw that this had everything that I was looking for and made in America, I knew I wanted to get this, and I'm very excited to have it. So thank you to Hellbender for making such a nice knife. Top quality materials, and I'm going to super enjoy using this. Really excited to have it. And let's do some size comparisons to some other knives. So here's a Tops Brothers of the Blade. Tops is another American company. I think they're in Idaho. And Brothers of the Blade, so some actual bushcrafters kind of contributed to what would make a good bushcraft knife. So you can see this is the size they came up with, so this is a good size for bushcrafting. So you can see this one is a good size for bushcrafting. And a SC4 is another model, and you can see I got 3 fasteners. That's my thing. It's been my thing for quite a while. And I actually bought both of these years ago, before Magnacut was probably invented. So just with what's come along with technology, now I'm getting a little upgrade here. Now, let's see. Gideon's Tactical, one thing he mentioned is he doesn't like the sharpening choil on the SE4. He mentioned that specifically, and I think it's because when he's bearing down on a knife with power, use the handle as a handle, like Outdoor 55 channel says. he says let the handle be the handle. So he doesn't like sharpening foils also as much. So you can use the full handle and you get the most power right here, so that sharpening foil is kind of in the way. You want to hold the handle and get your power if you're doing a power stroke. So that's why on a knife that you can use hard use, sometimes some people don't like a choil. I'm not as against choils as they are, I guess. But I see their point. And when you've got your hand on this handle, it's very comfortable. And if you can get your power closer, the fort of the blade, so the foil is the weak, like on a sword, foil and fort, so you get your power closer to your hand. But as you can see, very close size, and we'll actually get some actual specs here. So let's do some actual measurements. The SE4 has a 4.5-inch blade and a 4-inch cutting edge. And then here we've got a 4, and that's over 4.5. It's 4 5/8 inches. And your cutting edge is also 4 5/8. So the tip of the handle is coming up here, and that's about even. You always measure to the highest point of the handle, so I guess that's about even with your, so you could almost use that as a guide with your cutting edge. So that's kind of neat too. 4 5/8 inch cutting edge. Your overall length here is 9 5/8. And your handle length, get it out of the way of the tripod. Actually, can like close enough so you can read the numbers anyways. 5 inches total handle length, but the actual part that you put your fingers on is between the finger guard and the bird's beak. So I'm going to measure that as 4 1/4 from point to point where you'd actually put your fingers, and that's plenty of room. I already showed you large size gloves, fits easy. So there's some size comparisons for you for highly regarded other bushcraft and hiking and outdoors knives. So we got a good size here. And I am a glove person. So whenever I drive, I put on driving gloves. Whenever I take my husky dog who pulls really hard, and he probably gives me 100 pounds of pressure, and I'd get a rope burn, and I'd get all torn up hands if I didn't wear gloves. So here's some dog walking gloves, but also if I'm using an axe or hard using, if I was dealing in a tree or even hiking, I wear gloves. So let's see how it feels with gloves. Really nice. Really nice with gloves. And so because I always wear gloves, my hands are always smooth. So if someone looks at my hands, they say, "Oh, your hands are so nice." Back in the old days, they'd see what, you could tell what kind of job a person had if they were a farmer, and they'd have calluses and all that. But because I wear gloves all the times, if I was using that rope on the leash with Saber, I'd get rope burns and my hands would get torn up. But because I wear gloves, it looks like I don't do anything. But that's not true. I wear a fixed blade almost every day, and I work that sled dog every day. So, but my hands still look nice because of the gloves. Anyway, so we talked about 3 points. We talked about the handle. We talked about the blade, and we just did some measurements. Let's do the stock thickness. And give it a tear. So it was listed at 0.156, and we will check it now with our caliper. And if you can read that there on the screen, I'm getting exactly 0.156, exactly as I had it listed. I always like when my measurement matches up exactly with what they had listed on the website. So I think we just double checked all of the stats. Actually, I might have it there. I might still have it up. Let's go look at it. I think it's right here. So here's one of their green knives for sale. This one's in stock. Where am I? I'm on the River's Edge Cutlery website. They have one in stock. And let's see if these, I think I said 9 5/8 when I did my measurements. That's pretty close to overall length. And I'm pretty sure that's spot on with what I measured. The caliper was exactly that, 0.156. So that was correct. Drop point, flat grind, Magnacut, high hardness. So one thing I wanted to say, people that have talked to Hellbender, I haven't talked to them myself, but I know people that have talked directly to the Hellbender people. They're committed to doing it right, and they're also getting their Magnacut in there in the sweet spot in their heat treatment. So I like that too. And then this one on the website, Cerakote, but mine is stonewashed. I already mentioned, you don't, with your high corrosion resistance on Magnacut, you don't need a coating for that reason. You'd only need it if you want it to make it look subdued or for whatever. G10 is a very tough material for a outdoors knife. So that's top notch. Good leather by JRE. Leather sheath. And 8.2 ounces is the weight. And I would show you on my scale, except my scale tops out at 7 ounces. So it would be over my scale anyway. Maybe I need to get a new scale. Made in the USA. So they do have other models. They've been out, I guess, about a year, or still less than a year. Now, what about batoning and stuff? We talked about bushcraft. So you can go to Gideon's Tactical. On his channel, he demonstrates batoning and stuff. I don't baton with my knives personally. I will use this for hiking and a camp knife. But I most likely won't baton because if I'm taking my tent, I also always take this Estwing hatchet. So I'll use an axe if I need to do something like that. So if I'm prepared and have brought my hatchet, I will use the hatchet. I'm not saying you can't baton if you want to. That's your choice. And also the argument, what if the knife's the only thing you have? That's a fine argument as well. But if I'm prepared and brought my hatchet, I'm going to use the hatchet. So anyway, other channels do batoning, and they have free sample knives that they were given to perform that testing. But I buy all my own knives. I'm not going to put the wear, which I wouldn't do anyway, of batoning, but I know how to do it. I do have a knife that I use specifically for batoning. It's a Schrade Leroy, and I try to not baton with any of my other knives. But I know how to do it, and it's kind of fun to do. But I also like splitting wood with axes and wedges. I like doing wedges and hammers. So I think that's actually the easiest way. I use wedges and hammers a lot. So, have we covered everything? I said we were going to look at one of the coins in each episode, so let's look at this one. What we're celebrating is the signing of the Declaration of Independence. So I thought this looked pretty striking. The painting of the light coming through the window, and they're holding up the document, and you got all the signers there. So we're celebrating our Declaration of Independence 250 years ago, America's birthday. And let's take a look at the other side. And here we've got an American flag in the background and a Liberty Bell, which is located in Philadelphia. And one thing funny about this coin is that looks like a British soldier. So there's the person we had to fight to get our liberty from, is what I like to say about this coin. But it kind of looks like maybe there's some soldiers lined up there. So this is a battlefield. So Revolutionary War. And the American Continental's uniform was similar, but it had blue sleeves instead of red sleeves. But anyway, that looks like a red coat. So, every day this week we'll look at both sides of one of the coins. Come back tomorrow and every day this week, and you'll see in another American-made knife featured. And this one, like I said, is really good. Top materials, Magnacut, great dimensions, great feel, great top quality workmanship. Everything I want in a knife. I was really glad to get this. So I can't say enough about how good this knife is. I really like it, and the sheath. So thanks for stopping by. I'm Skol. And we're all celebrating together. America 250. And remember, always carry a knife.